so much for coming. Thank you for trusting me with your letting go journey. And what we're going to be covering today, for those of you who are watching this in replay, what we're going to do is for replay, you're going to see the presentation, but you won't see the group discussion. So I won't be showing the group discussion. You'll just see speaker view and the presentation. So this is a absolutely safe space for all those who are here now to share what their questions are, what their concerns are, and have a mini taste of a coaching session along with the masterclass. So the section to do with doing a card reading for each individual, and maybe we'll see how time goes at the end. I might just pull a card for the collective to watch in the recording. So hello to all of you who are going to watch this in the recording later. So you'll get a little card pull, but I'll do everyone else individually. And as I said, the sisters circle kind of aspect of going around and talking about the personal stuff, that's not going to be in this recording. In this recording, what you're going to have is my presentation. Yeah. And if you have any questions about what I'm going to present, then please contact me, DM me, and we can talk. This will be the best way of finding out a bit more. I am hoping that what I will do is get this refined as the main signature masterclass, combined sisters circle kind of experience. I really want to get this up and running as something that I do regularly. So thank you for all those who are attending live with me and making it this the first sort of a time to do this. So thank you so much. And thank you for those who signed up and registered. I love you very much for doing that, following instructions and registering, but who are not able to attend live today. I know who you are, and you will be getting this recording in the email really as soon as I possibly can after this recording. Do chop and edit, top and taste now. Okay. Why am I hearing, before I go, one second, I don't want to hear another thing going ping, so I'm going to remove all possible pinging. That's good. Now, so things that I want to do today, things that I will be doing as I'll be running the presentation. We will be having a sisters circle where you get to celebrate one thing that you love, and you get about yourself, about your life, get to share with me the main regret that got you inspired to sign up and be part of this experience. We'll be having a card pull. I just saw a really fabulous EFT. If anyone knows about tapping, I swear by it. I absolutely love it. And Brad Yates has got a tapping exercise. I love Brad Yates. He's got one on forgiveness. It just popped up on my home screen for YouTube. So there you go. So we'll go through that together as well. All right. Well, let us get started. Let us get started. Get yourselves comfy with your cups of tea and coffee. I've got my coffee over there, my dirty chai. And let me start sharing my screen. All right, where are we? Here we are. I love technology. I do actually. I do love it. We sometimes get a little bit iffy about it, but you know. There you go. That's working. Yay! Okay. So everyone. So what I ask you to do is if you've got any questions along the way during the presentation side of things, just pop them in the chat and we will get to know. Pop them in the chat or write them down, and we will get to the Q&A at the end. Yes. So, Crones don't live in regret. This is where we're starting. Let us start from the beginning. Brilliant. So, what we're going to be covering, some introductions. I'll introduce myself. I'll introduce myself and then you will go around and introduce yourselves. And I'll be talking about my mission. Actually, yeah, no, let's do this this way. I will introduce myself and do the presentation, and then after the presentation, I'll turn the recording off for our part that is for us to have our sisters circle and talking and sharing, and that I think that would be probably the easiest way to do that. Yes. So, who I am. Hello, people. I am Pia Antico. I am a Joy Reboot mentor coach and trainer, and I am 49, and I live in Sydney, Australia. I am a mother of a fabulous 25-year-old daughter who is married now to a really lovely young man who thankfully is the complete antithesis to the two ex-husbands that I've pulled into my life and then got rid of. So I am incredibly relieved that my beautiful daughter worked through the crap I put on her plate by marrying her father, and therefore the abuse that we both suffered under him, that she did not follow on. She didn't play it out, thankfully, which is really wonderful. So it's great to see her stepping into her strength and power and addressing her anxieties and things like that, and stepping beyond them. So I'm just thrilled to know that at least one tick off the list of good things, list of miracles in life. I am doing this. Why am I doing this? What am I focused on? I am really honing in and very focused on working with women over 40. Super niching it. Women like myself, we're single, maybe we're divorced, maybe we're widowed, but obviously that's not the only way of being 40. So hence why I've hesitated to really niche down only to single women, though it does seem to be quite interesting that there seems to be a lot of single women over 40 we're either never got married or never partnered, or did but we aren't anymore. I do hear and I am part of the shock and awe of the dating scene out there. And yeah, so my focus really has been in looking at the fact that we are stepping into the most powerful stage of our life, actually, our crowning stage, our crone stage. It's our wisdom stage. It is the opportunity for us to finally step back from the full-on active caregiving, particularly for those of us who are maybe single for now, who don't have a partner or a husband to have to take care of, or a wife to take care of, because it's, all works. I used to joke about I need a wife more than a husband, and that joke now doesn't feel so much of a joke anymore. I will admit that I'm noticing I appreciate women far more these days. But at the moment, I'm not doing anything with anybody. Focus is is on me and my healing and my strengthening and my moving forward into my power and my business and my daughter and my family. And I'm just kind of not, and friends, having friends, building up a friend network, because that was something that when I was married to abusive husbands, building up friend networks was not very possible. Talk a bit more. That was like one of the mistakes, one of the regrets of the mistakes kind of things that I had, was not being in a position to be able to um, build up networks in the same way. But anyway, what my mission is to counter. I mean, I've always been a bit revolutionary. I've always been on the what do you call it? I don't want to say attack. Attack's a harsh word, but I've always been very focused on countering the misogynistic, patriarchal narrative against women. I mean, it's at all stages. Young women have their issues that they have to deal with about how they have to look and be fertile and be sexy, and the whole mother whore thing. But what I noticed is, obviously, as we age as women, the shift, or the limitations put on us, look slightly different. We now become more and more invisible, unless, of course, you've got the body of J-Lo, and then suddenly 45 is still fuckable, apparently, but you've got to look like you're 20. And this diminishing or rendering invisible the wise woman, the mature woman, this has been going on for eons. This is something that's even been pre-Greek mythology. I'm very much inspired by Dr. Jean Shinola Boland, and she is the author of Crones Don't Whine, and that's the book we've been doing together as Sacred Crone Story Time in the group. And she talks about, in her work, she talks about, well, the fact that the wise woman in archetype and in the pantheon of goddesses, and that she had to go even pre-Greek. What seemed to have happened is that the very early classical pre-Greek mature women, the power holders, the lineage holders, the lawmakers, suddenly their stories and their powers and characteristics and that got subsumed by the male, like the Zeuses and all that sort of stuff, in those pantheon of gods and goddesses. And then, of course, Christianity just further erased the wise woman, both within the Western context and also trying to, through cultural genocide of various indigenous groups, as it plodded along with colonialism, we have found that the wise woman has been rendered either as a witch. She was but in like a bad way, to the point now that Disney only has imagery of the older woman, and she's, the warty old hag, or she's the evil, wicked witch. And when I was actually pulling together sort of the nostalgic side of the marketing and messaging of what I do, apart from the TV series The Golden Girls, I really couldn't think or find terribly much as far as pop culture. Golden Girls, and who else? Endora. Endora? Yeah, Bewitched Mother-in-Law. Yeah. And that's it. I really couldn't find terribly much else cartoon-wise, Disney cartoon-wise. Forget it. It's the Wicked Witch. It's Hansel and Gretel, warty witch. There's no well, the fairy godmother, I guess she was that the fairy? think there might have been. No, the fairy godmother was generally seen as pretty young as well. And then got Tinkerbell, and you got, you know, they've got the youthful thing, but when it came to the older wise woman, yeah, I really couldn't think of terribly much. If you can think of anything pop culture wise, stick it in the chat if anything comes to you. The other one recently came to me thinking, the very recently in the James Bond uh, series of films, James Judi Dench's M, being a very strong, um, powerful leader, and being mature, like not trying to conceal the fact that she is mature. But honestly, they're, you know, oh, movie wise too, I really loved it, but I wouldn't say it's high pop culture. But she was in it. Was the Best Marigold Hotel, the lovely little movie. I mean, I love the Britishy movies, and I think James Judi Dench and Maggie Smith and all the rest of, they're fabulous. Um, but as far as Disney kind of pop culture, there really isn't much going on. And so this is what I'm on about. I'm wanting to add my voice and hopefully be part of adding to and moving forward a movement of reclaiming and the crone. I mean, the fact that when a lot of women have been saying, "Oh, but I don't consider myself a crone. I don't want to be a crone. I don't want to be older. I don't. The crone is a hag. She's, you know, no, she's not. The crone is so powerful. The crone is, in fact, far more powerful than certainly the maid, the prepubescent maid, and even in that fertile mother stage, because the crone has integrated everything. She has done her journey, and she gets to take that, all that she has learned, all those regrets, all those mistakes, and let go and step forward into the remainder of her womanhood. And for us, that can be decades. Uh, you know, I hope to be here at least another 50 years. I'll be 50 next year, so I want another 50 years to have the second half of my life to be fully powerful, fully authentic, unapologetic, wealthy, healthy, wise, happy, and doing things in my own terms, considering that the first half of my adulthood was filled with abuse, illness, major injury, grief, poverty. So, you know, this is me getting to step in. And this is what I'm hoping to invite, and what I want to do is to invite and support other women over 40 to do the same. And the first step that we need to do in order to awaken our joy within that's already there and step into our crone power and our unapologetic authenticity, and joyfully, without fear, create for us the kind of life we want. The first thing we need to do is let go of those regrets that we carry with us, that heavy burden on our backs of what ifs and I should have, all that. What if I'd done this? What if I hadn't done that? And all that crap. And the key that I found, because believe me, I had my bag. It was a backpack. It was filled with stones of regrets. And I realized, for me, what was the final step to being able to put that backpack down was forgiveness. Forgiveness of self and forgiveness of those along the way that I perceived were the cause of my problems. Now, forgiveness, a lot of people will talk a little bit about what that actually looks like and how, because it's very easy to say, and I know intellectually a lot of people go, well, yeah, I already know that, got to forgive. But what does that look like? And what does letting go actually look like energetically? So a lot of people, I think, out there have this sense that, well, okay, I'm just not going to give a shit anymore, and I'm just going to do what the fuck I want and all that sort of stuff. And it's still tied up in a lot of ego, and it's still tied up in a lot of defensiveness and judgment. So sure, you might be pushing forward with a I couldn't give a fuck, I'm going to do what I want kind of mentality, but it's not joyful. It's not joyful because it's still defensive. It's still wrapped up in resentment and shame and guilt. And it's got this like this whole energy of being all about putting the barriers up. So my mission is to help you all put your goddamn armor down and step forward into your life with the joy that is your birthright. It's already in you. Don't have to look anywhere for it. And so then that leads me, well, what was my big mistake? Well, my big mistake entering into 40, it was based on this misunderstanding of where my happiness actually came from. And I made huge mistakes, which then compounded my experience of loss and trauma. And then I sort of added fuel to the fire with all my shoulds and shouldn't haves and all that stuff. Then quickly, the true cause of happiness. And then, as I said, the key to letting go. Then what I'm going to do is I will do a wisdom affirmation pull on screen for the collective out there who is going to watch this in replay. And then I'm going to tell you about how you can work with me if this all resonates and you want active support in the process through embodying my unique Awaken the Joy Within framework that I coach from. So I'll tell you about how you can do that. Okay, so what I would love you to do, okay, so how we'll work this out. What I would love you to do now, each of you watching and each of you out there watching this in replay, I want you to, I love that. I bought this. I love it. I'm going to show it to you. It's just so beautiful. I love this. Is my Nepalese Tibetan singing bowl, straight from Nepal, blessed by monks with Om Mani Padme Hum, under a full moon. I love it, and it sings so beautifully. Anyway, let us begin. I want you out there to stop for a moment. Let's get some deep breathing in. Because for some of you, it's the evening and you've had lots going on. So let's center ourselves. And another one. Let's bring ourselves into ourselves. Now, out there in recording replay land, I want you to think of something, have it, bring it up. You don't have to think about it. Just allow it to rise from within you. Something about you or your life that you want to celebrate. It could be something that's happened this week. As I said, it could be something from way in the past, but just bring it to the forefront of your mind. Bring it as an experience. Feel the joy of remembering it. Okay. And what I want those here to do is, what you can do is you can share it in the chat. Brilliant. So, thank you. That is just absolutely, that is something that absolutely need to Celebrate. Thank you for sharing. So think about that and bring it into your awareness. Let it flood all of you, because it is that truth. It is the truth. The appreciation and the joy of the miracle that is our existence is the truth. Notice where it's coming from when we celebrate. Notice how it floods our body when we are in celebration and joy and appreciation. Know that that is impacting you at a cellular level, at an energetic level, when we show up in that space. Okay, so for me, I'm celebrating doing this with you. I am celebrating overcoming all that imposter syndrome thinking that goes on ahead of any of this stuff that I do. Believe me, I've been doing it for years, but I still get it. It still pops up in my head. The, oh my God, what do I know? All that stuff. And seeing it, loving it for what it is, because it's just an aspect of self that is fear, but that's okay. And being able to love it and release it and celebrate what I'm doing and celebrate who I am with you and celebrate the possibility for all of you. This is what it is. It's not about me. Why I'm doing this is because I want to share what I know so that you too can sit in a state of celebration no matter what the heck's going on outside of you. It's absolutely possible. So what I want you now to do also now is just let me know in the chat, and for those watching this in replay, just bring to mind, what's that number one regret that brought you here today or had you register? What's that thing that you are not letting go of? That when you think about it, and notice it's a totally different experience, isn't it? You know, when you're in a state of celebration, remembering and reminding yourself and being present with something joyful in you and in your life, it's very much here in your heart area. The minute you start going into thinking about past hurts and all that sort of stuff, or future worries, it's very much head level. It's your ego. It's your ego fear thinking. Whereas when we are connected to appreciation and love and high energy vibe, it's the truth. It's the truth of our being. So that's how I know when I'm out of whack. It's because I'm up here. And up here isn't where the answers are. Up here is very illusory. It's not reality at all. However, we live in an outside, what we call an outside in world. We live in a world that tells us this is the reality, and anything here is just is fanciful. Well, flip the switch. It's not. But do just pop in the chat and let me know. So you've got divorce, got your relationship with your father. Yeah, I understand both of those ones. No, okay. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Well, for me, I guess the things that kept me, what I held on to, my key regrets were picking the two ex-husbands, the two abusive ex-husbands. The other key regret for me was I was given a compensation for when I was coming home from work. We were talking April 2000. I was coming home from work, broad daylight. I was on a zebra crossing or pedestrian crossing, and I was run over at 100 kilometers an hour. The person was driving without a license. They had faulty brakes, and obviously they were speeding. And that, I was 28 at the time, and that I was 28. I was still in that first marriage with the father of my daughter's my daughter's father and abusive husband, abusive father for her. I was still married to him. I had actually gotten rid of him a few weeks before that accident happened. And when that accident happened, I was airlifted to hospital. I was semi-conscious and fitting. I was induced into a coma. Um, it was a major head injury. And somewhere between getting rid of him, being in hospital, being in a coma, that period of time, um, I came home and he was to my daughter. So he had my daughter. That's another story. And somehow he apparently was back. And so for me, I had nightmares after that. After I finally got rid of him in 2007, officially got rid of him, I officially had moved out with my daughter. We escaped from him. That was 2006, beginning of 2006. I officially got the divorce through 2007, 2008. But for a good 7, 8 years post divorce and being separated and living in a completely different situation, I used to have these nightmares that he'd be a different context, but that he kept coming back in some way. Like in the dream, I knew I was divorced, but he was back. And the penny dropped that I realized now finally what that was. It was not because I thought that it was not actually a fear that he would come back. I actually realized now I must have been playing out what I don't actively remember. I don't have an active memory from quite a big chunk of that time, so I don't know how he came back. I know that he left. I know I got rid of him, but I don't know how he came back. So that sort of fear of how does he come back. So I think that was, for me, those regrets were from that injury. The regret then was him taking money from me out of that compensation, and then having a story that I carried from my relationship with my dad, who was financially controlling growing up, was that I wasn't a good money manager, apparently, I told myself. And so the compensation that I was given, I told myself it was like loads of money, and in truth, now understanding it, really wasn't. And then I actually made it, I did actually live off it because I couldn't work, and I was raising my daughter, and, head injury, I couldn't work, and was recovering and all the rest of it. That I actually did do some really sensible things with that money, like putting money in towards a house and refurnishing my life for my daughter and taking care of my daughter. And, but I actually managed that money for 15 years. And the last chunk of that money, I invested in my business. I invested in myself. And so flipping switches on stories we tell ourselves. Everything is just the story we tell ourselves. And we tell ourselves stories based on a misunderstanding, an incomplete understanding of what is actually happening in our lives. We make conclusions on the past, and the past is what we have of the past is inaccurate. It's inaccurate when we're doing it because we don't have 360 vista vision. We don't know the hearts of others. We can't see around corners. So any conclusions we make, they're inaccurate at best. So what about for yourself? I would love to know out there. Let me know. DM me later on after you've watched this replay. Let me know, or shoot me off an email, whatever works. When I send you the replay, I will also send you a link to book your free 15-minute Awaken Discovery chat. So tell me then, book your chat with me, and you can tell me what it is that you're holding on to. But hopefully by the end of it, you won't need to be holding on to it any further. So giving you a little idea of the background that I'm working from. And I'm hoping that this will help you by the end of it to see how easy it is to release what we might have been carrying for decades. It is actually effortless. That's the beauty of how I work from the inside out paradigm perspective. Sydney Banks, inside out paradigm perspective. And the way that I work is vastly different to what's normally out there in the healing, self-help, self-improvement, even self-empowerment. It's not that. It's enlightenment. It's transformational. It's insight driven, and it's what we already have. We already have the inner wisdom. We are already by default joy. You don't have to do anything. So it's not about trekking through the why and the what you're thinking and rewiring and reframing. And you don't actually have to do anything to create wisdom. It's already there. What in fact is the key to tapping into what is already there is letting go of that thinking that is getting in the way of you hearing your inner wisdom and sitting in the pocket of your innate joyfulness in the present moment. If we have enough time at the end of this, I think I might just run you through a wonderful quick meditation that I absolutely love doing. If we don't, what I'll do is I'll give you the link to it. It's called, it's what I call your true self meditation. And I was inspired from another coach, inside out paradigm practitioner called Natasha Swadoff. And I just found this to be brilliant because it gives you a little taste of what experientially in your body it feels like to have set aside past, future, and all the story of self, and what you have left, that is your true self. And that's the space to look into, toward, and sit in, to be guided by your inner wisdom. So, have you ever said to yourself, if only I did or didn't? If only I hadn't married that. If only I'd had some self-worth when I was in my teenage years, and didn't rush off after my 5-year relationship with my first boyfriend ended, looking to fill the void with another partner. If only. What if I had? What if I hadn't short-circuited my independent, authentic, growing, powerful self as a woman in her early 20s and subverted it by bringing in a relationship instead of looking at what it would be to stand firmly within myself and be single at that time? What if? Have you ever said to yourself that you will only be able to let go when people and the events in your life are fixed perfectly? I know that for a very long time, with both ex-husbands, but particularly then the second one, I very much believed that I wouldn't be able to move forward without justice. And the penny dropped that, and for me, that justice meant, I don't know, him being punished in some way, or him acknowledging the shit and actually being real about it. Yeah, I very much was unable to move on. So I'd be sitting back in Australia, because I left him in Pakistan, sitting back in Australia in my new apartment, and sitting on my lovely lounge and looking out the window behind me and having an imagination of what, in my imagination, running through all the stories and looking for answers from the past, all the conversations, replaying everything, and somehow looking for closure in that, and believing that I wouldn't be able to move forward if he didn't if I didn't get that sense of justice and all that stuff. What I learned and understood, thankfully, is when I understood something called separate realities from my training, from stepping into doing my personal and professional journey as an inside out practitioner. One of the things that I learned, one of the key tenets in it, is that everyone has their own reality. Everyone is seeing the world. They are creating their world through their thinking, their thought created feelings. They are feeling their thinking. They are not feeling the world directly. They are feeling, they're thinking about the world that they're in, the story they tell themselves. And so once the penny dropped within myself as an experience, as an insight, not just intellectual understanding, but really allowed my heart to open up to this truth that, well, both these ex-husbands were absolutely acting in a way that was not appropriate, not in fact criminal. So not denying that, but the truth is they were acting in response to the story in their head, their own problem. They had their problems. They had problem thinking. I didn't need to figure out what that problem thinking was in order to move forward. But one thing I realized is that, well, it's not personal. They weren't responding to me. They might gaslight and say they were, but they weren't. They were responding to the story in their head. And their story in their head was causing them to have their feelings. Now, the problem is most people out there are thinking that the outside world, the partner, the kids, the dog, the job, whatever, are causing them to feel good or bad. Getting the money, having a, whatever it is, good or bad, we think it's out there that's causing us to feel stuff. But that's not the truth. The truth is, we create our experience through our story. We are feeling our thinking about the outside world. Yes, there's an outside world. We are physical beings. We have a physical body. We walk through a material world. If I stumble over and, I was run over, this body, the vehicle I'm in was hit by a metal vehicle on the street. There was damage. It jiggered up my electrochemical physical vehicle. But I am not my body, and I am also not the sum of my events. I am energy. I'm an energetic being. I'm spirit. I'm directly connected to the energetic universe. So are you. Now, so were they. But the problem is when you don't realize that and you get so caught up in believing that it's the outside world causing you to feel stuff, well, naturally, we act in fear because everyone knows we can't control the outside world. So naturally, people who are so caught up in a story in their head about whatever it is that's going on, that's what they're responding to. They were responding to their fear-based problematic thinking with problematic feelings, and they responded problematically. Now, at the time, I didn't see it that way. At the time, I saw that I was the cause of them to behave that way. And then I'm trying to change myself and change them and change the situation in order to avoid being abused. Once I understood, having left and in the safety of my own home, the final letting go was realizing that there was nothing, I didn't need justice from them anymore, because all their behavior represented, all that they were doing, it just simply represented that they were their own enemy. They were causing their own suffering. And then in doing so, were incapable of connecting with me to have a loving relationship. So they added more suffering to their suffering. And I didn't have to add any suffering to me by being stuck in wanting a certain, outcome or response from them. It was not necessary. I didn't need to know why. I understand that anyone that's behaving in a difficult manner is because they are having difficult feelings. based on their difficult thinking. And I will never see the world the way they see it. And I don't need to see the world the way they see it to be able to have compassion and forgiveness, the kind of forgiveness that it means that you can let go. So actually, this is me when I'm speaking from my wisdom. This is really interesting now. I used to be very focused on slides and having 1,000,001 notes and trying to, and I'd be lost if I wasn't looking at notes. I have no notes. I'm speaking from my inner wisdom in the present moment. What it does mean, however, is I don't follow slides anymore, not in the order. But so yeah. So I found that it's not true. As I was telling you, it's not true that this idea that we need the outside world to be a certain way for us to move forward and be okay. We don't need that. Also, what is not true is the I wish I had, all that what if thinking. It's not reality. The universe is dynamic. The universe is always flowing forward, and it is always beneficial. Always. One of the key things that really helped me let go of the shame and guilt around decisions that I labeled as poor decisions, mistakes. When you understand that everything has benefit in it, the difficult stuff, the not so difficult stuff, and that in the end, nothing is a mistake when it brings you closer to your innate wisdom, your divinely guided, divine, however you want to label that divine. I want to say that now. I happen to be hybrid kind of Buddhist, Sufi, Wiccan-y, New Agey. I'm a bit of everything really these days. And so, yeah, I certainly, for me, I absolutely know that I am far more the true I, the real I, is formless and limitless and abundant and radiant and joy and is energy and directly plugged into the universe and the source, divine, however you want to label it, and that the story in my head is not who I am, and I am not the sum of the events that have happened in my life either. So people and events can't make you feel anything. As I said, they're not making you feel anything directly. It is the story you tell yourself. And the beautiful thing is, once we understand that our story is our ego-based story is limited, even geniuses, even Albert Einstein's intellect is limited. If you were to, and hence why, in fact, he speaks and has spoken about, you can either look at the world energetically from it being a miracle or choose not to, best look at it as a miracle. Well, because he had a sense of that there is far more to our experience than mere logic. And there's far more to existence than what can be measured. The other is that the past doesn't predict the future. And this is beautiful. This is so liberating knowing this. For instance, with my for my dad, how I would show up to family functions for so long. I had all the dress rehearsal of he's going to say this or he's going to respond like that, and then I'm going to have to be prepared with what I'm going to say and all the rest of it. So I would put the suit of armor on. I'd be prepared for the family function, and I'd have this sense of going into battle, all based on what I perceived was the past. But what I call the past, what you call the past, is just one limited view. Imagine that. Think of that analogy, or that the of the elephant, or the people with blindfolds, and there's a big elephant in the room, and each of them are touching one part of the elephant, and they each have a different idea of what this object is, based on what their limited experience of that object is, and they are unable to see all of the elephant, and they are unable to see all the other people trying to figure out what the elephant is, and they're unable to see that the other people are blindfolded as well. And this is how we go through life. This is how we all go through life, and we assume that what we're feeling up in life is the whole reality, and and we call it an objective, independent reality to our thinking. Well, this is not how it works. And so when we get a taste, again, it's insight. Everything that I point towards and where the transformation happens is when working with me. It is about, what I bring is the listening, through actively listening and connected listening to my own, so that's listening to you and listening to my own wisdom that arises in the moment, sharing a perspective, asking a question, pointing you in a direction. But it's from your insight, it's from your inner wisdom that the transformation arises. It's not a thinking game. The more you try and logic your way into things, or try and understand it at this level, I mean, we can't avoid information coming in at this level first, because this is, we communicate with the words and the theory and the abstract. But transformation is not a story game. Hence why the mainstream way of dealing with life and the universe and all the rest of it, through analysis, through conceptual talking, therapeutically conceptual talking, it doesn't work. Healing does not come from there. Why? You're not broken in the first place, you, the true self, but also because all that talking does at this level is just keep adding this layer of story, misunderstanding, incomplete understanding on top of each other. So all you're doing when you're going back in the past is just adding an extra layer of analysis on an incomplete conclusion in the first place. Each moment is a fresh new moment. Each thought is a fresh new thought, giving rise to a fresh new insight. The past is dead. The answers are not found there. And what I realized is that why the past does not predict the future is that just because someone did something a certain way one time, just because I showed up in a certain way one time, does not mean that even if the situation is set up to be almost identical, it can never be fully identical. Obviously, we know that. Time moves forward, we move forward. Our cells have regenerated. So we are literally at a cellular level not the same person now that we were a second ago. So the past does not predict anything. We just cannot make conclusions in the present moment from past thinking and be worrying about the future. It doesn't work like that. So we can let it go. And the beautiful thing, realizing that we can let it go, means that we no longer have to hold ourselves in regret. I realize very very much so. The reason of holding on to regret and shame and guilt is from a sense of fear that unless you hold yourself to a permanent account for things that you did in the past or didn't do, that you're going to continue doing them. Make that mistake again. It's not possible to make the same mistake. Even though I married two abusive husbands, they were not the same exact mistake. And they were not from the same, they weren't from the same position. They might have both been abusive husbands. They were totally different um, races and religions and ethnicities and locations and age group and everything. But I was also different. The reason that I stepped into abusive marriage number two was a very different space. I mean, it did have a common thread of self-worth under it, but the story I was telling myself at age 22, when I stepped into the first 23, when I stepped into the first marriage, to stepping into the second marriage at age, I don't know, what was I, 41, vastly different. Different stories, you know. And it's not the past that led me into that. It was the present moment and how I was handling myself that led me into choosing abusive husband number two. It wasn't the past. And the past is only the past if I bring it into the future, if I bring it into the present through my thinking. But the actual past, we are not actively reliving our past. It is not actually physically with us, happening to us. We relive it through our thinking. So we cause our suffering in the present moment by hanging on to stories from the past. Past is dead. Analyzing it isn't going to help anything, and it's not going to give us the answers we need. So the inside out paradigm is the framework that I work from, and the research that they do, which you can see more research from, what they call three principles. They're meaning the same thing, inside out, meaning that we, in fact, are experiencing the world thought created. So thoughts create our feelings. We are having a feeling our thinking in the moment, and that is what is giving us our experience, as opposed to what generally is out there as being understood by the mainstream out there being, my husband's pissing me off, my kids are frustrating me, my job is annoying me, all the rest of it. We say that it's the outside world causing us to feel stuff. The three principles is this same, it's the same modality, it's the same paradigm. The three principles are simply mind, consciousness, and thought. It is the mechanics, like the mechanics of gravity, that keep us on the ground and stop us from floating around. The three principles are the mechanics of what creates this inside out experience. It's mind, consciousness, and thought. Mind being universal mind, the matrix of our energetics. From a Buddhist point of view, mind, Dharmakaya, the pure mind. So it's not mind as in what a lot of now Western psychology that's talking a little bit about mind, they are very confused, unfortunately, and they misuse the term. They use mind with a little m, and they try and say that mind is brain and thinking. It's got nothing to do with that. Mind with a big end is universal mind. It's impersonal mind. Some people may choose to label that as God, a divine source, but it is the all-encompassing intelligence of the universe that we're plugged into. Spark in here, spark out there. It's direct plug. Consciousness is that spark within us of existence, the ability within us to reflect on our thinking and the thinking of others and our experience. It's the breath of life. Thought is thought. Thought, when we're talking thought, mind, consciousness, and thought, it's not personal thinking, ego thinking. It's the It's the fact that our existence is created through thought. And then what our ego personal thinking is the conclusions that we've made along the way, um, based on that sense of that we think that we're separateness, and desires and aversions and fears and hopes and dreams and all that stuff, the thinking. But the key here is to understand that thought, energetically, thought, we don't control it. Thought arises, pops in our head. We have thousands and thousands of thoughts a day. They arise. With the arising of thought is emotion, a neurochemical, hormonal response, and they both pass like the tide ebb, rise and flow, rise and fall, out they go. We don't have to control, we don't have to try and stop thought from happening. We cannot stop thought from happening. We cannot stop having an emotional response. But what we can do is understand that it's a mechanic like gravity. We don't have to do anything with it. We don't freak out about the fact that we can move through the world, and we don't try and stop it. We don't try and make it happen. We just take it for granted that it is, and we do. Well, this mechanic of how we actually experience the world is the same. And it's just that we get caught up in story. We tell ourselves story and give meaning to what is just a process. And then that's what we call our thinking, our ego thinking, and we create a story about it. But when we understand that we are not that ebb and flow of thought and emotion, there is undercurrent, a stream of consciousness that is separate to thought and emotion. It's a stream of consciousness that is pure, that is unlimited, that is radiant, that is joyous, and that is what we are plugged into, and that is our true self when we're not caught up in our head and all the storytelling that we go on with. So those who embody, who have embody the understanding of the inside out paradigm and allow it to, seep through their experience and sit with the arising insights and allow for the transformations to take place and unfold. 91% of such people have reported being, in this particular study at least, reported being feeling significantly more in control of their behavior, thought, and feeling. They weren't freaked out by their experience. 75% reported feeling a lot less depressed. Again, understanding that the story in the head is just story. Sometimes we get caught up in it. Sometimes it looks real and solid, but then able to very quickly slip back into true awareness that it's just thinking in the moment and it will pass. And equally then 84% in that study, at least, significant reduction in anxiety. And one of my colleagues gave a beautiful talk in a conference just a few weekends ago on how she was able to have peaceful attacks as opposed to panic attacks, and how the embodied insight of the inside out paradigm and living from this space of knowing that it's just a thought created experience enabled her to see her bodily response of rising anxiety, so the biochemical, hormonal, nervous system response that was going on. She would still have that happen, but all the story of meaning that added the extra layer of fear and hopelessness and all the rest of it that kept her housebound, she was able to just let it evaporate as thoughts do when she had the insight in that it's just story, and that it's story that she was creating to explain a physiological response. So it's not so much that she was in fact also experiencing less and less physiological reactiveness, nervous system reactiveness. She in fact did experience a lot less of it, but even when it did happen, it didn't send her into freak out mode because she understood what it was. It's just the body was doing something, and she didn't have to add an extra layer of story about what that meant. And so in a similar vein, those in the study no doubt would have been having a very similar experience as well, and therefore a reduction in anxiety. So looking at time, okay, we're going to wrap things up. So got about another 40 minutes, and I want to have the time in for group discussion and card readings. So if we go over a little bit longer, look, if you need to leave dead set on time, let me know, just wave at me, pop something in the comments, in the chat there. But if you're not rushing, well, that's great too. But I'll try and get this presentation side of things done a lot quicker. No, I'll just try and hurry it along for you all. So, because I want to get onto the card reading and the Sisters Circle side of things. Okay, so. And then timing wise, what I will do is when I email the recordings, I will include in the email the link to the 15-minute bonus 15-minute free chat. I will also put the link in for Brad Yates's tapping out forgiveness. Sure, it's like tapping. I love the tapping. This is so sequence around there with lovely affirmations. This is brilliant, and I just absolutely loved it. So I'll give you a link to that. And I have a true self meditation clarity offer. I'll give you a little link in there. And of course, I will also give you the link to sign up if you are loving what we're talking about and want to have the support to have the insights and the transformations from those insights in your own life. That's how you get to work with me, is my 12-week VIP one-on-one Crone Life Joy Reboot package. And that's how I'm wanting to work. This is what I'm just so excited to work one-on-one. I only can sort of fit in 10 at the most, 10 women. So first in, first served. And it's a 12-week program. So that's how you'll be able to work with me. Getting back to where we are. So there was a time when. So I've been telling you along the way about my story of what I've been doing. So this is the crunch point for the marrying husband number 2. So I entered my 40s and I blew up my life chasing happiness out there. So this was before my understanding here. This was before this came into my life. I too very much believed that, I have to achieve things out there. I have to get things out there, be in relationships, whatever, the outside world, fulfill those things in order to be happy. And apologies for if you can hear a helicopter or something in the background. I don't know. We're going to make a dark-humoured Aussie joke and say that we are currently in Sydney in lockdown, and there's the military police trying to get people back in their homes. Anyway, um, so I entered my 40s and I blew up my life. I had my period between marriages. I had my own home. I bought with my dad. I refurnished my life. I completed university degrees. I was raising my daughter. I was slowly but surely, um, getting my brain injury in a process of recovery and adjustment. Um, those 5 years post the head injury, but still married to the ex-husband, I went backwards. 4 of those 5 years, I had undiagnosed absence seizures or perimenopausal epilepsy, and he was gaslighting me, no joke, and the physical violence as well. So the truth of the matter is, the first 5 years post head injury, I actually went backwards. Thankfully, I once settled in and free, that's when I really started noticing that I started to be able to get on top of the rewiring that was needed in my brain to, you know, be where I am today. So when I thought still, however, that it was the outside world and that I wasn't satisfied and I was restless and all the rest of it, I turned my life upside down. I changed my identity in the sense of my faith choice, and really embodied that faith choice by being known by my religious name, and I changed the whole way I did things according to my faith, and I, you know, absolutely turned my life upside down, thinking that I needed labeling and identity and all that sort of stuff, and group belonging and all that, and being in a relationship, and outside thinking. Well, now I know where happiness comes from, and it's not out there. So even though I had my own cottage in the Blue Mountains, I live in Sydney, so Blue Mountains 2.5 hours west. It's a lovely bohemian kind of feel to live up in the mountains. Freezing, but lovely. Even though I had been at this stage 7 years free of that abusive marriage, and I was recovering daily, and I had 3 university degrees in that 7-year period, my daughter was growing up. Yes, she was now entering her teen years, and we were having some teen teething problems, but that she's now in her mid-20s, and we're the best of friends, and that's really lovely. So for those of you who may still be in the thick of teen terror, please know that solid foundations of connecting more than correcting, you will get over it. They will hit their 20s, and there's a very, very good chance that they come to understand. And in fact, she gave me a beautiful Mother's Day tribute in Facebook, where she acknowledged that, you know, not only had I given birth to her, but I kept her alive through abuse, and then also gave her the inspiration to seek to find her own power and move forward and make better choices because of it. And I just love her to bits for that. So I promise you, stay connected heart to heart with goodwill. Your children are not actually causing you to feel anything, frustrated or otherwise. They're just doing them. And it's just the story in your head about what you think they should be doing or you should be doing that's causing your experience. So I fearfully looked at what I didn't have. I was not looking at what I did have. I did not appreciate and celebrate what I did have. I had a whole story of what I didn't have, and I didn't sort of didn't have a career, and I didn't have financial stability, and I didn't have a partner, and I didn't have this, and I didn't have that, and I was putting on weight, and all the didn'ts. I was not grateful. I was not grateful, and I completely got it wrong, thinking that the outside world and the getting stuff was going to make me feel better. And so that was my number one mistake. And so the fears behind it, one of the fears behind that, why I said earlier, the mistake of marrying the first husband and stepping into that abuse, though there is a theme of lack of self-worth underneath all of it. And I can, yes, indeed, trace it back to my absent emotionally absent, largely physically absent relationship with my dad, on top of the fact that he was very financially controlling, and kind of really, I realized that I grew up with a sense of having to, I internalized having to beg for the basics, and it wasn't just about money. In the end, I realized it was about having to beg for my existence, and it wasn't enough, and I wasn't interesting enough to, I had all the stories we tell ourselves along the way, conscious or unconscious. Nonetheless, in the end, however, and why analyzing all that story and past is pointless, is because the answer isn't in there. Yes, shine some light on awareness that you had some problem thinking. If you've basically, if you've made some problem decisions and find yourself in difficulty, it's all you need to know is that you've just have some problem thinking in that moment, with giving rise to some problem feelings. You don't, and you take a breath, it will pass. You don't have to respond, but you don't need to actually go figuring out the why. The whys of things may arise as inner wisdom, but you don't have to go searching up here for them. So the mistake that led me into marriage number 2, well, he was actually, so I said I was early 40, I just entered 40, 39, 40. He was 10, 12 years. He was significantly younger. He was in his early 20s, mid 20s. And I was very much taking on board in ways that I didn't fully comprehend, to be quite honest, but I was certainly taking on board the messaging that, well, I'm now past it. I'm no longer skinny like I used to be. And on top of that, because the head injury, when it happened, I didn't have the wealth and the career that my cohorts along the way had developed. So, there was a whole lot that I thought I was lacking. And so, yeah, coming into the online space and looking for belonging and looking for connection, yes, one of those things was stumbling across the young, good-looking guy. This is the online dating world for you. And then finding myself, very much getting caught up in the misunderstanding of wanting to recapture youth that I didn't get to have in my 20s because I was too busy dealing with a head injury and an abusive husband. So it's like, okay, let's try and recapture something I didn't have. It was a very different, and hold off being older. And then it happened that I married into a faith ethnic group situation that still very much prized fertility and having children. Like, you got married, you had children, and the expectation on the man to make sure that he marries to have children. And so I put my body through all that fertility stuff. I had 2 miscarriages. I had the implicit and very explicit threat that if I did not pop out the goods soon, I'd be supplanted with the younger one. So sort of Damocles over my head there on that one, and realizing now, looking at it, that I was externalizing all those fears. I was all my internal fears of not being worthy because of, well, if I can't pop out children, if I can't be young and youthful and sexy, if I don't have the financial security or job, prestige kind of thing, or what the hell, what's the point? What am I? And so there were a lot of fears around losing any last chance of having anything of significance as I got older. And of course, the miscarriages that I had just compounded the sense of failure, and then the sense of self-loathing at a body that had never really played nice with me through illness and injury. And so now I've just add that on to the perimenopause. And, I had a whole lot of story going on here. Had a whole lot of story. What I did not realize, what I did not have, was the divine feminine. I did not know, I did not have the story of the archetype of the crone. I did not have the knowledge of what it really means to step into this stage of our life. And it's not hot flashes and dried up vaginas and barren wombs and hormonal weight gain. Those things may physically be happening, but that's not what this stage of life is. And in fact, the story we tell of what that means, which is decrepit and falling down and breaking away, and that is, in fact, is not what it is. It's not us crumbling and falling to pieces and becoming less and less relevant. What it is the slowing down and the shifting from the physical to the energetic, from the outer to the inner. And the vessel is shifting and changing in order to enable that transformation to happen. So it's miraculous, really. And so life rebuild between, so the life that I built for myself between the marriages looks very different to what it is now for me. And what's really interesting is, financially speaking, I have been far more unstable financially in this time than between the two marriages, because I had that compensation to build up that life and live off, whereas I invested the last lot of it to start my business. So this business here. So finances have been the final frontier of creation and miracle making. But funnily enough, I haven't freaked out about it. I'm not freaking out about it. I used to freak out about it, about money and where's it's coming from and all that sort of poverty consciousness. But this inside out understanding, this understanding that I am far more than my thinking, I'm far more than the limited perception of physical world. Understanding, not understanding, but as Kelly Jones would say, inner standing. I love it. It's not under, in here, it's inner. It's this inner wisdom, having this insight, this experiential connection to the energetic flow of abundance, that now the unknown out there does not freak me out. I can have all the outside world activities, that are the ups and downs of physical life, from illness to whatever changes happen, is loss, and whatever change happens out there that we all go through. But I don't freak out about it. It doesn't overwhelm me. I can show up in the present moment to whatever's going on and know that the answer arises from within, and that I don't have to pre-plan anything. I don't have to think my way through anything. So I don't have anything to fear. So what I very quickly wanted to say is, letting go. The letting go of all those past regrets, of the mistakes that I thought that I'd made, the stories that I'd told myself that set myself up for making poor decisions. It's forgiveness. Starting with yourself. Knowing, once you know, as in gnosis, as in insight, as is embodied experience, when you know, then in every single moment to moment, you are responding in the best possible way that you can. And we can't know what we can't know. I didn't know what I know now. But what I know now enables me to look back at where I was and marvel at where I am now, first of all, and thank the peer that was for doing the best that she could with what she had, and that kept me stepping forward into abundance and growth and self-love and plugging into something so sublime that is greater than the sum of the story and the sum of the parts that make up me. Um, but it's forgiveness. It's understanding that we are all going to get stuck in our thinking. It's part of the process of being in this physical incarnate form, is that sometimes we will still, even with the understanding of the inside out paradigm and the insights that it brings when we allow it to just seep through and shift our perception of experience, still we're going to sometimes get stuck in the story in our head, and that story is going to look like real solid reality, and we'll be responding to that. Hence working with me. I'm not here to put insight in you. You're not broken. You don't need fixing. But occasionally you're going to need a little tap on the shoulder when you're out of whack and in your head and not in alignment with your wisdom. You're going to need a little tap to, hey, look back within. You can step out of your thinking in the moment. You don't need to stay there. I know it looks real, but it isn't. And when you realize that, then when you realize that all the decisions you've made along the way are because it looked real to you at the time, and you were responding the best way you could, well, then it enables you to finally just put it down. And then the beauty is you can do the same for those people that did cause harm along the way. You know, even those that we perceived did it intentionally, maliciously. And even if they did to some degree aim to do it maliciously, intentionally, it's still based on their thought created experience, and they're having problem thinking, problem feeling, responding with problem. It's got nothing to do with us, and we don't have to take it personally. And we can see them for the suffering that they're causing themselves. And indeed, the energetic sort of blockage that they're causing. You know, they're like a black dot in the universe. Well, we can have compassion for them, and forgiveness does not, and here's the thing, forgiveness does not mean reconciliation in the sense of, oh, I've forgiven them, so I have to keep having anything to do with them. No, forgiveness means letting them go, sending prayers of goodwill onto them and letting them go, so that they are no longer taking up space, rent in your head, and you're no longer engaging energetically with them. We can't let go of people energetically if we are still angry and pissed off at them and looking for justice and looking for this, that, and the other. We can only sever the tie energetically to the people in our lives that no longer serve any benefit to us, keeping them there, through forgiveness. And forgiveness is just simply the default of realizing that any problem that they've caused to themselves through their own thinking, their own thought created feelings, and their own illusion that their feelings are coming from the outside world. And like all living beings want to move towards pleasure and move away from pain. The single cell amoeba do that. So, you know, that's all they're doing. So what I want you to do is I want you to imagine in your life that thing that you've been holding on to. I want you to imagine that you are finally letting it go, that vision of self, vision of others, the story you told yourself, that you have just made the decision to let it go. So imagine that you have, and really bring into your awareness What did it feel like to have that calm and that clarity and that confidence? Knowing that no matter what happens from here on in, that your feelings are yours and that they have no power over you. You can be having a moment. We don't have to stop emotions. We don't have to numb them. We don't have to not experience them. We can have every emotion in the suitcase of life, and that's okay because it passes all by itself if we don't add extra layer of story on it. No longer making mistakes because of chasing happiness outside of yourself, but actually from your innate happiness that's already inside of you, taking aligned action in the present moment and creating your life from that space. Imagine increased compassion for yourself, patience and forgiveness for yourself and others along the way. And then following that inner wisdom in the present moment instead of the fear-based thinking. So the Awaken model, I'll quickly just let you know, this model is unique. It arose from my own inner wisdom in February. Of course, for me, everything comes late at night. So it was between 11 o'clock at night and 4 in the morning. My framework, absolutely inspired from my training in the Inside Out paradigm. I was really focused on realizing over this last year or so that initially I was looking at relationships, how to reset your relationships so that you experience them with more joy and ease. And I particularly would be talking about my relationship with my dad and how it completely shifted and changed. But what I understood is that the resetting of relationships is the byproduct. It's not the cause. So stronger relationships, greater sense of forgiveness of self, patience, compassion, radiance, fearlessness, all the rest of it. These are all the byproducts of being tapped into your innate joy. When you are stepping forward into the world from your innate joyful wisdom, then everything else takes care of itself. You don't need specific things to take care of the world around you because it takes care of itself. That includes relationships. And so having that insight, then, well, what is it? What was it that helped tap into what is innately within me? And this was the Awaken model that I came up with. Awareness. So awareness of the truth of what we are, that awareness of the true self. And awareness, insight, as opposed to just understanding. Living from our innate wisdom. So knowing where that wisdom is within us, getting a sense of it, listening to its guidance and living from it. Understanding that that's actually the true feeling to follow, not the story in our head. Appreciation, like we started at the beginning, celebrating our lives, appreciating what we have. That was so key. The mistakes I made second time around came from not appreciating where I was and what I had. And the truth of what I actually was as a miraculous energetic being. Kindness to yourself, kindness to others, the goodwill. One of the things I have understood in repairing or reconnect, I don't want to say repair because it wasn't broken, but reconnecting, rekindling my relationship with my dad, it's about goodwill. Goodwill is a decision. A willingness to experience the goodness. We are all good by nature. We are not broken by nature. We are joy by nature. We are unconditional love by nature. So is the universe. And so this willingness to see, experience everyone, even the ones that we consider being difficult, at their spirit level of goodness, enables us to respond in kindness, to see it in ourselves and respond to ourselves in kindness. Equanimity is being okay even when things aren't okay. And in fact, knowing that they're okay even if you think they're not okay, because they're okay, everything's okay. It's this okayness with the shifting and changing of life, and bringing onto our path as okay the mistakes that we think we've made along the way, and the difficulties and the fears and all the rest of it. It's all okay. We are okay. Deep down, completely and utterly, everything is always okay, even if we are stuck in our story of it not being okay. Now, finally, now, being in the now, being in the present, joy arises by default. It is our default factory setting, and it is accessible, as is our wisdom, in the present moment. And here's a beautiful thing: you don't have to do the present moment. I used to do yoga and meditation and all the rest of it. I still do them, still participate in them. But I believe when I used to do them, I used to believe that I had to do them in order to almost create the now. Mm-mm. The now is the default factory setting of not being caught in the story in our head of past labels of self and worries about the future. And hence, the true self guided meditation gives you a taste of what it actually feels like to be free and therefore in the now. And that space is the now. And that space is where your wisdom arises from. And that space is the one in which you get to taste your innate bliss and your innate wisdom and be guided uniquely through the world by a beneficial divine source universe plugged in. That's what it's all about. Okay, so if you've liked what I've been talking about, letting go of regrets, moving forward into your life through your innate heartful wisdom, tapping into your innate joy, letting go of all the shoulds and the musts and the oughts that keep us up here in our head and limiting our experience. If you want to work with me, this is how you can work with me. This is what I am doing. And I'm so excited. This is the Crone Life Joy Reboot VIP 12-week one-to-one coaching package. What you get is 60-minute fortnightly coaching sessions. And how I want them, how this is, they're going to be structured from the 6 awaken steps to joy. So week 1 will be coaching around the concept of awareness and helping you have insight and transformative experience around awareness. And then we'll do wisdom and appreciation and kindness and equanimity and being in the now. In between the coaching sessions, there'll be Voxer or WhatsApp support. I'll get you to, when we book in that, I'll get you to pick one. I think so we don't get confused across multiple modalities. Elect which one. It can either be Voxer or WhatsApp, and we will make the connect, and that's where you will be able to communicate with me during the week of the second of the alternate week as I as support as you embody and experience some shifts and insights and transform your experience from the week before. I'm not really into giving homework, but certainly there'll be whatever arises for you in the coaching session, whatever arises in the moment from my own wisdom experience of the coaching session. I may well give you something to reflect on, or maybe it will arise within to suggest a tapping or something. It is all unique to everyone. And that's the unfolding of being in one's wisdom. Then we have you'll be given a 3-month free Sacred Crone Collective membership. I'm so excited. This is the other project I'm so excited about, is my monthly membership, the Cackling Crone. Actually, yes, I meant to say Cackling Crone Collective. Sorry, guys. Because that's what the crone is. It's all about laughing in the face of everything and being totally carefree. And so this monthly membership, I'm super excited. what we will be doing in that monthly membership is we'll be having our sisters, our Crone Wisdom Moon Circle. There will be embodiment activities. I'm going to be calling in experts to collaborate with. You'll have each month with me as part of that membership. You'll have a Sacred Crone alignment session, private session with me. There'll be Voxer support. There'll be prizes and competitions and awards and all, just as things arise as it goes along, and new things will be added to the membership, new activities as it unfolds and becomes this entity unto itself. And so I'm absolutely looking forward to that. Obviously, I'll also come in live into that secret Facebook group as well, doing lives and tips and tricks on joyful living and all the good stuff. All the good stuff. And so you'll get 3 months free in that collective membership. Then I have in the works, I've got the group Awaken the Joy Within, the group coaching program that is in the works as well. So you'll get a discount on 20% discount on entering that group coaching program at a later date to be announced. And so the total value of that, as you can see, is over $9,764 US. But the cost of working with me one-on-one is $3,333. And I absolutely love that number. The angel number for that is just absolutely brilliant. In fact, I meant to write it down. I forgot to. I'm going to quickly look it up and tell you. I remember when I looked it up, I was just absolutely... I just went, oh God, that's so good. Angel number 333, 3333. It was all to do with alignment. And if you keep seeing angel number 3333, it means it's all about balance, finding that balance in your life and getting that balance in your life. It's opportunity to talk to the universe and to speak on your needs and desires. It's about love. It's about destined to experience success and happiness in love, self-love, love of others, love of the universe. It's about investing in time and resources to tap into your joy, to find that happiness. And I love it. So absolutely brilliant. I love that number. So 333. If you book for the 333 up front, then you get a bonus Sacred Crone alignment session with me in the 13th week. I'm also offering 6 monthly installments. And I'm thinking maybe I'm sitting with this, allowing for some alignment on it, but I might have a little competition for one person to be able to get a 12-month payment plan. We'll think about it. I'll sit with that. I'll do a card pull. I'll do a pendulum thing. I'll sit with it. I'll meditate on it and see how that might play itself out. But certainly it's upfront with a bonus or 6 monthly installments of $560. And I'm just so super excited to work with you. You here, you out there watching this in replay. I'm feeling that each 3 month period, I've got 10 places at the most is what I'd have. So really 5 is a very nice like a nice amount, but I could push it to 10. But I really wouldn't want to be doing more than 10 women in a 3 month period. The doors open for this now. So you can respond to the email. You can DM me if you want to chat further about it in the 15-minute call, do so, or you can just simply, if it's going, if your wisdom within you is going, yes, I need this and I need this now and I don't need any further discussion on this, then, which I've done many a time, doing things like that, you can choose your payment option and jump in with me straight away. So there you go. Now, I'm going to do a wisdom card pull for you all. I'm looking at the time now. We are Sid is saying 10:52. Yes, so we're nearly at the 2-hour mark. Okay, not doing too badly. All right, so let me do a card pull. And for everyone else here who wants a card, just say yes, please. And this is the deck I'm using. I love this deck so much. Stacey, it's such a beautiful deck. So pretty. So for the collective out there, okay. What have we got? I've got a few cards. Got many cards. Actually, top and bottom. We will go. First card out, Gold Lotus. Love it. And the other one that came jumping out was the Pink Lotus. So let me do a quick read for you on what Michelle Mann. So this is the Golden Lotus deck from Michelle Mann. I got it on Etsy. Australian girl, Queensland, I think. So the Gold Lotus of Abundance is shining into your life. The symbol of gold coins is recognized the world over for good fortune. The colors of yellow, gold, and pink surround the coins of abundance, meaning this card is all about attracting your abundance, which is what I'm trying to do right now. Breaking the cycle of lack, of not having enough. What are your thoughts about money? And the thing is, this is a wonderful thing, understanding that we are all energy, not understanding, but understanding, understanding, having that alignment. Money is energy, love is energy, they're the same energy. And that's just so profound. I was realizing that when I had fear about the love and relationships and men and, you know, all that stuff and self, it's like I had a wall, a fortress around my heart. Well, abundance wasn't coming in. Money abundance, you know, money in the abundance in the form of money was also not coming in because I was blocking the abundance of love, the energetics of love. They're one and the same, just different forms, but it's all the same. So abundance is all around us. It comes in many forms, as I said, and it is different for everyone. The Gold Lotus card reminds you to be open to receive the abundance that is all around you. So if you were having a closed heart at the moment, full of regrets and shame and fear, I'm here to support you, to release all that and let it go. And that's what you can do when you're working with me. Open your heart and trust that you need to bring into your life will be provided. And the fact that love and money are that abundance in the form of money, abundance in the form of love. Here's the thing. We need to invest the coins in ourselves in order to have the like, it's love. It's investing in ourselves is love. That's what I'm getting at. Yes. So it's all one and the same. So funnily enough, when we say we can't afford or this is not for me, what we're actually saying is that we are not in love of ourselves, not trusting in our own wisdom, not trusting in our own ability to shift our experience, not worthy of help. Chicken before the egg. This is what's been really interesting. When I went on my journey of healing my money blocks, because they were so clear to me because of the story I told myself about the conclusions I'd made about dad and money and, you know, well, in a wealthy family, trappings of wealth, but having to beg for basics, that kind of thing, and having that play itself out. What's been really interesting is, for me, the focus had been unblocking that. As I unblock the energy in regards to wealth, my heart has melted. My heart has lightened. The wall around it has come down in regards to self-love, love of the universe, love of others. The cynicism about romantic love has fallen away. I'm not actively looking for anyone right now, but I'm open, but I'm not, I'm too much loving what I am doing with myself to really put my practical energy into it, but I'm open towards it. There's an openness. So if you feel at this moment that, well, okay, I need to love myself before I can spend the money, here's the thing. It's in the energetics, I found at least, of making the decision to invest. It felt almost the first time blind faith, to invest in the support that I needed, the reminders and the support that I needed along the way. For me, the initial support was the support to come into the training program of the Inside Out paradigm that had completely flipped on its head the 20 odd years of psychology training that I did. That's all those degrees. They're all psychology and counseling. This completely is the game changer. So there you go. Gold Lotus. Now we've got Pink Lotus. So love yourself enough to invest in yourself. You just whether it's with me or whether it's with someone else. But if you're holding on to or having struggle letting go of things that no longer benefit you and you need the support, invest in yourself. Time, resources, reaching out for help, whether it's me or somebody else. Pink Lotus. Pink Lotus, the last one. I love Pink Lotus. Let me just get that. P. Pink Lotus. There we go. So this is your last one here. There you go. The lotus emerges from the mud and opens and closes for 3 days. The lotus comes in blue, white, pink, and violet. The lotus is spiritual enlightenment. The lotus is symbolic in Hindu and Buddhism and other religions. It's seen in many paintings and statues. Its meaning, it's time for spirit. It's already in you, to guide you to your next awakening. Awaken the joy within. You may feel different when going through this growth. Be kind to yourself and practice meditation to clear your mind so that you can listen. Pink, magenta, this is why I'm magenta, fuchsia and magenta are my branding colors, to your inner voice for guidance. Disconnect from distractions like television, social media. Read an enlightening passage. Discover something you have been curious about, which you find uplifting. It can be a time to research other spiritual practices. So here's the thing. There's the two ways of approaching meditation and inner stilling of the mind. Before the Inside Out paradigm, before my understanding, my inner standing of how it all works, I approached meditation as it was a tool that you did in order to create something that didn't exist. So basically meaning I had to do the thing in order to have the meditative experience. The meditative experience is already within you. You don't have to do anything to create it. So don't get too caught up in the mechanics of meditation, the mechanics of prayer, the mechanics of various rituals. It's not the mechanics, it's not the ritual. The meditative experience is what we're looking for, is where your wisdom arises from. And you already are, it's already there. It is. I will also in the email give you the link to my true self-guided meditation, and it gives you that step by step of letting go of that's the past, that's the future, these are the conceptual, and that space there, allowing yourself to sit in that space. And that's the state, the radiant. Then you don't have to do anything with it, though. You don't have to add form into it. It's the formlessness. We're getting a taste of what it is, and that is very helpful. I will give you the tapping as well from the forgiveness tapping by Brad. Again, what's really interesting that I notice is before my inside out paradigm understanding, I did things like yoga and meditating and tapping and Reiki and having massages and all the stuff because I did it because I thought I wasn't okay and that I needed to do those things in order to be okay. Now, I listen to my wisdom, and my wisdom in the moment, one may well point me towards go get a massage. Get up and do some dancing. Get up and do some yoga. That little inner, the okayness of my innate inner wisdom and joyfulness arises, and I may well have a prod to do an activity like meditate or yoga or massage or go out for a walk or catch up with friends or go hug my mum or hug my daughter or whatever. So it's not that there'll be no doing in one's life. It's just the doing is wisdom arising, not thought created doing in order to create the wisdom. If you can see the flip of it, have a sense of what it is, then that is brilliant, because it's not that you don't, it's not that doing in and of itself is bad, that you at all. So these activities are great. It's just understanding from the energetic perspective in which you are doing them and understanding what is happening. You are already perfect. You are already whole. There's nothing broken. You don't have to do things to fix yourself. It's your wisdom that guides you into the doing. Your inner wisdom, your heartful wisdom, not this knowledge-based thinking thing up there. Well, look, we are at the bit over the 2-hour mark. So I'm going to love you and leave you now out there in the recorded land. For those, thank you so much that you've stayed through. What I'm going to do is I will stop recording, and we can do our card pull together. Thank you. I'll pull a card individually if you've got any further questions about the regrets that you brought with me. Talking into the group, if you've got any regrets, if you want to talk about that, what you brought with you, we can have a quick chat about it. For those out there in that world out there of the recording land, I will send you the email, all links and activity links, way of connecting with me for your bonus 15-minute call, links to the tapping, links to the true self meditation, and links to jumping in and booking your spot in my VIP 12-week one-on-one Crone Life Joy Reboot coaching package. So that's your lot. Loving you and leaving you. Blessings, and thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to connecting with you again after this. So talk to you all later. Bye.